Imagine you're trying to ride a bicycle through a brand new, completely unfamiliar city. You're navigating heavy traffic, frantically checking street signs in a language you're still mastering.
Oh, and just trying your hardest to keep your balance.
Exactly. You're doing great until suddenly you turn a corner and hit this massive, incredibly steep hill. Your momentum just completely dies.
Yeah, you simply can't pedal any further on your own.
Right. You have to stop, put your feet on the ground, and, well, ask a local for directions.
And that is such a universally vulnerable moment, regardless of where you're from. I mean, you are actively admitting that you've reached the absolute limit of what you can do by yourself.
For sure. And when you're communicating in a second language, that vulnerability is just magnified,
Oh, absolutely. It's terrifying for a lot of people.
which is exactly the moment we're unpacking today. Welcome to Tim's English channel, and welcome to our deep dive.
So glad to be here.
Whether you are listening on your commute, maybe you're making dinner, or you're sitting at your desk studying, we are diving into the complex and, often anxiety-inducing world of asking for help in English.
It's a huge topic.
It really is. And because we're exploring a practical language skill for our English learners, we're going to maintain a steady, natural pace today.
Right. The vocabulary will be clear and accessible. We're not going to use overly complicated academic jargon.
Exactly. We aren't going to talk down to you, but we want this to be really useful. Oh, and before we really get into it, please remember to like and subscribe to support the channel.
It really helps us out. So, looking at our sources today, the mission is to master this specific skill. But what's really fascinating is the big aha insight hidden in the research.
Yeah, this totally blew my mind. Tell them about the misconception.
So, a significant majority of language learners feel this deep sense of shame when they have to stop a native speaker to ask for assistance.
Like they've failed somehow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The internal monologue is usually like, oh, my English isn't good enough. I failed at figuring this out myself. But the research completely flips that narrative.
It really does. Stopping to ask for help is not a symptom of bad English.
No, not at all. It's actually the ultimate proof that you are a smart, highly effective communicator.
I mean, I always thought of communication as just, knowing the right vocabulary.
A lot of people do.
But the sources are saying the actual goal of communication is achieving an objective and, like, building a bridge with another human being.
Yes. When you recognize a deficit in your own understanding and you successfully bridge that gap by asking someone else, you're winning at communication.
You aren't failing, you're just using the language as a tool to solve a problem.
That's the core insight. Native speakers ask each other for help constantly. I mean, it's literally how society functions.
Right. People are inherently wired to assist others.
Provided, of course, that the request is framed in a way that respects their social boundaries.
And that is the catch, right? To become that smart communicator, we need to look at the exact words to use. The challenge isn't whether or not we should ask, it's how we ask based on who we're talking to.
The social landscape matters so much.
Let's go back to that bicycle analogy. I look at the basic English phrases for asking for help as the gears on a bicycle.
I love this analogy.
You have to shift gears depending on the terrain. If you're cruising on a flat road with a friend, you use one gear. If you're climbing a steep hill with a stranger, well, you need a different gear.
And in language, that terrain is defined by the social hierarchy, how well you know the person, and the size of the favor.
So let's examine the baseline gear, which we'll call Gear 1. This is your casual everyday setting. The phrase is simply, "Can you help me?"
Can you help me?
Yeah. The notes indicate this is the phrase you'll hear and use like 90% of the time.
It really is the workhorse of the English language. It's
Yeah.
direct, it's clear, and it establishes a very low friction interaction.
Mhm.
You use gear 1 when the social terrain is completely flat.
Right. So for example, your hands are completely full of heavy grocery bags. You're standing in front of your apartment building, and your roommate is right next to you.
You wouldn't be super formal.
Exactly. You just say, "Can you help me with this door?" You don't need to dress the request up.
Or if you're cooking and you need a quick favor, you just say, "Can you help me wash these vegetables?" It implies a level of comfort and equality.
Mhm. But then the terrain shifts. You aren't at home with a roommate anymore.
Right, maybe you're at a corporate office or a high-end department store.
Let's look at Gear 2. The phrase softens slightly here. It shifts from "Can you help me?" to "Could you help me?"
Just that one little word swap.
And I've always found this linguistic quirk so fascinating. I mean, could is technically the past tense of can, right?
It is. Yeah.
Why does shifting a verb into the past tense suddenly make a request in the present moment more polite?
Oh, this is great. It all comes down to a concept called psychological distance.
Psychological distance.
Yeah, in English, adding distance equals adding politeness. By using the past tense could, you're creating this subtle hypothetical boundary between you and the person you're speaking to.
Oh, wow.
It makes the request feel less immediate and, less demanding. It gives the listener a tiny bit of conversational breathing room.
That makes a lot of sense. You're altering the power dynamic. So if I'm wandering around a massive department store and I am completely lost looking for the shoe section,
We've all been there.
right, walking up to a retail worker and saying, "Can you help me?" might feel just a bit too familiar.
Exactly. The lack of distance feels slightly aggressive in that context.
So I shift into gear 2 and say, "Excuse me, could you help me find the shoes?"
The past tense creates that respectful buffer. It's perfect for strangers, retail workers, or your boss.
But sometimes you need an even heavier gear. You encounter a situation where the terrain is incredibly steep.
Which brings us to gear 3.
Right. The extra polite gear. Would you mind helping me?
Would you mind? The phrasing there is very deliberate.
Yeah, you aren't just asking for the action, are you?
No, you're actually asking about their emotional state regarding the action. You're acknowledging that you are an inconvenience.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
This gear is designed specifically for interruptions. Like, imagine you're in an office environment. Your coworker is staring intently at a spreadsheet. They've got their noise-canceling headphones on,
Oh, they are in the zone.
clearly in the middle of deep work.
Right.
But the communal printer is jammed, and you have a massive presentation in 5 minutes.
I'm already feeling the anxiety of having to tap them on the shoulder.
Right. You need a big favor, and you are actively breaking their concentration. If you just say, "Can you help me with the printer?" Well, it ignores the fact that you just ruined their focus.
But by asking, "Would you mind helping me with the printer?" well, you're demonstrating high-level social awareness.
Exactly. You're saying, "I see that your time is valuable, and I'm respectfully asking for a moment of it."
And I feel like we should probably mention the ultimate social lubricant that gets applied to all of these gears. Oh, the magic word. Please.
Yes. It is so basic that we often forget it. But appending "please" to the end of any of these requests acts as a universal politeness multiplier.
Could you help me, please?
It takes very little effort, but it significantly warms up the tone of the interaction. So we have the core mechanics, we have the flat terrain of "can you," the respectful distance of "could you," and the interruption awareness of "would you mind."
But knowing the gears in theory is one thing. Applying them in real-time scenarios requires a bit of strategy.
Context is king.
Totally. The sources provide a free specific role plays to show how this works in practice, starting with the workplace or school.
Let's say you're given a task by a boss, and you realize you have absolutely no idea what the instructions mean.
This is where that psychological shame we discussed earlier really hits hard. The instinct is to hide the confusion to avoid looking incompetent.
Right, you just nod and pretend you understand.
Exactly. But a smart communicator realizes that asking for clarity now prevents a massive mistake later. So you approach the supervisor, use that respectful gear 2, and say, "Excuse me, could you help me understand this task?"
You're owning the gap in your knowledge, but you're doing it with total professional grace.
And it works the same way in an academic setting, right? A student doesn't need to suffer in silence if a lecture is confusing.
Not at all. A simple, "Could you explain this math problem to me again, please?" shows the teacher that you are engaged, not defiant.
Now, another crucial context from the notes is the service industry, like restaurants.
Ah, yes. This introduces a new formula, combining the polite request with vital personal context.
Providing the why behind the what.
Right. If you're looking at a menu and the ingredients aren't listed, you can't just guess, especially if you have a food allergy.
That's dangerous. So you flag down the waiter and say, "Could you help me with the menu? I'm allergic to dairy."
You give them the reason for your request. It immediately turns them into an ally because they understand the stakes of the interaction.
The same formula applies to the classic lost on the street scenario. You're in a new city, your phone battery dies, and you are totally disoriented.
We've all had that moment of panic.
So you find a stranger who doesn't look too rushed, and you provide the context before the request. "Excuse me, I'm lost. Could you help me find the nearest bus stop?"
It answers the stranger's immediate internal question of, why is this person approaching me?
Okay, but let me push back on this rigid adherence to polite structure for a second.
Sure, what's on your mind?
I'm picturing a scenario where I'm walking down the street and suddenly a car swerves and crashes into a lamppost, or a kitchen catches fire.
Oh, wow. Okay.
If I take the time to calculate social distance and construct a sentence like, "Excuse me, sir, would you mind helping me, please?" I mean, that could be fatal.
Oh, absolutely. It will be entirely inappropriate for the context. The sources are very definitive on this.
The emergency exception.
Yes, the emergency exception overrides all linguistic rules. When physical safety or medical health is on the line, politeness goes out the window.
You jump completely off the bicycle.
You abandon the bicycle entirely. In a crisis, the goal of communication changes. You're no longer trying to protect social boundaries.
You're trying to break through the noise.
Right, you're demanding immediate attention. You forget grammar. You forget pleasantries. You just yell, "Help," or "I need help," or "Please call an ambulance."
That is actually a huge relief to hear. The word help functions as a complete self-sustaining sentence when the stakes are high enough.
Survival instinct strips language down to its absolute core.
So emergencies are simple because the rules just vanish. But what happens when you're actively trying to follow the rules but something gets lost in translation?
This is where we get into the friction points, the danger zones for beginners.
Yeah, the moments the bicycle chain slips off the gears, the notes outline several specific traps that learners fall into with great intentions.
It's fascinating how easily politeness backfires when we try too hard, or when we apply the rules of our native language to English.
Let's look at trap one, the direct command.
This happens so frequently. A learner drops a stack of papers on the floor, looks at their colleague, and simply says, "Help me."
Oh yeah, they aren't trying to be rude at all.
No, they're just translating directly from their head.
I've seen this happen. In some languages, using the direct command is perfectly acceptable between friends. It's seen as efficient.
Right. But in English, if the building isn't burning down, telling someone, "Help me," sounds militaristic.
It sounds like you're barking orders at a soldier.
Exactly. It strips away all of their autonomy and violates that psychological distance we talked about. By failing to use can or could, you aren't asking for a favor. You're demanding labor.
The fix is so simple but crucial. Always front-load the sentence with the gear. Just add, "Can you? Can you help me?"
Perfect. Now, trap 2 is what the sources identify as the phantom 2.
Ah, the phantom two. People incorrectly say, "Can you help to me?"
Yes. Can you help to me?
I actually have a theory about why this happens.
Oh, let's hear it.
If a learner is visualizing the act of helping as like transferring energy or a favor from one person to another, they use the word to as a bridge to show direction, like giving a gift to someone.
That is a very sound theory.
Yeah.
Many languages require a preposition to mark the direction of the verb. But in English, help is a transitive verb.
Meaning it takes a direct object.
Exactly. The energy of the action flows straight into the receiver without needing a bridge.
So the word to acts like an unnecessary speed bump in the sentence.
Precisely. You just drop it entirely. The action connects directly to the pronoun, "Can you help me?"
Then there is trap 3, which is a double meaning issue. Students often say, "Can you able to help me?"
Yeah, this feels like a logic error where the speaker is stacking different grammatical tools on top of each other just to be safe.
It's a redundancy born from hesitation, isn't it?
Exactly. Can is a modal verb expressing ability. Able to expresses the exact same ability. When you put them together, you're essentially saying, do you have the ability to help me?
It's like trying to pedal the bicycle forward and backward at the same time.
That's exactly what it's like. You just need to pick one mechanism. You can say, "Can you help me?" Or you can say, "Are you able to help me?" Both are perfectly valid.
They just cannot occupy the same sentence.
Right. But perhaps the most common trap, trap 4, isn't grammatical at all. It's entirely psychological.
The confidence trap.
Yes. It's the danger of over-explaining out of sheer nervousness.
Oh, this is incredibly relatable. You're so terrified of being perceived as rude or intrusive that you just start rambling.
Yep, the word vomit starts.
You walk up to a desk and say, excuse me, sorry, maybe if you are not too busy right now, perhaps you could pause.
And by the time you get to the actual request, the listener is completely lost.
Right. And if we look at the psychology of empathy and communication, we realize why this backfires so badly.
When you're overly incorrect, you think you're being polite, but you are actually increasing the cognitive load on the listener.
They have to do complex mental gymnastics to decode what you actually want from them.
You're making them work harder to give you a favor.
That's so true. Directness, when paired with the right polite gear, is actually an act of deep kindness to the listener.
So how do we circumvent that nervous rambling? Let's say I feel my heart rate rising because I have to ask a stranger for directions. How do I reset?
The sources recommend a physical and verbal anchor. Take a deep breath, smile, establish brief eye contact, and use one clear, confident phrase.
Which is,
Excuse me, do you have a minute to help me?
excuse me, do you have a minute to help me? Oh, that is an incredibly elegant solution.
It immediately signals that you respect their time, it asks for permission to proceed, and it gets straight to the point without any unnecessary fluff.
It creates a really nice structured interaction, which leads us to the final component of this skill.
The art of the soft landing.
Exactly. We've discussed the gears, the context, and the traps, but true mastery is knowing how to open and close these interactions gracefully.
Because even if your grammar is flawless, you are still actively entering someone else's orbit. The sources highlight a few advanced opening phrases that signal a very high level of fluency.
Let's hear them.
The first one is preemptive empathy. I'm sorry to bother you, but
Oh, this is an exceptionally natural way to initiate a Gear 3 request. Like, I'm sorry to bother you, but could you help me carry these boxes?
by apologizing for the interruption before you even state your need, you immediately disarm any potential annoyance.
You're acknowledging their reality before imposing your own.
There is another advanced opener designed specifically for significant favors. Imagine you go to a cafe with a colleague. You order your food, and when you get to the register, you realize your wallet is sitting on your desk back at the office.
Oh, a nightmare scenario.
Right, this is a high-stakes request, so you might use the phrase, I hate to ask, but...
I hate to ask, but could I borrow $10 for lunch?
Mm.
It's a brilliant conversational tool. It communicates that you understand the weight of the favor.
And that you wouldn't be asking if you weren't truly out of options. It builds immediate trust.
So you use the right gear, you use a graceful opener, and the person graciously agrees to help you. The crisis is averted.
How do we properly exit the interaction? I mean, a quick thanks feels insufficient if someone just spent 10 minutes helping you find your lost keys.
A simple thank you is totally fine, but it can sometimes feel a bit automated. To convey genuine gratitude, the listener should integrate this specific phrase. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Let's say that again for everyone practicing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
It shifts the focus from the action to the effort. You aren't just thanking them for the result. You're valuing the time and energy they sacrificed for you.
It provides a highly satisfying conclusion to the social contract.
But we have to acknowledge the reality of human behavior here.
What do you mean?
Not every interaction will end with a satisfying conclusion. Sometimes you approach someone with perfect phrasing and they simply say no, or they brush past you because they're late for a train.
Yeah. Rejection when you're already feeling vulnerable can sting deeply, especially when you're operating in a second language.
This is where emotional resilience becomes a language skill. When someone declines your request for help, you must remember that their response is almost always dictated by their context, not by your linguistic ability.
They might be having a terrible day, or they genuinely might be in a rush.
Exactly. Don't take it personally.
So how do we execute a soft landing when the answer is no? We can't just walk away in silence.
You maintain your politeness to keep the interaction neutral. You simply say, no problem, thanks anyway, or I understand, thank you.
No problem, thanks anyway, that's perfect. You de-escalate, you leave the interaction with grace, and you just find the next person to ask.
Exactly.
Wow, well, let's pull all of this together. We have mapped out the gears of politeness, from the casual flat roads of can you to the steep interruptive hills of would you mind.
We've explored how context dictates our approach, knowing when to provide vital details like food allergies, and of course, knowing when to completely throw the rules away and just yell for help in an emergency.
We navigated the danger zones, learning why help me sounds like a military command and why indirect nervous rambling actually burdens the listener.
And finally, we learned how to approach and exit these interactions with empathy and profound gratitude.
The overarching theme here is that making mistakes, whether it's using a wrong preposition or just feeling nervous, is an inherent part of the learning journey.
The mechanics matter, but the ultimate goal is human connection, not grammatical perfection.
And looking at all these sources today, what strikes me is that mastering these phrases goes far beyond just passing an English test.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest shift for learners?
I think the most profound takeaway is that learning how to ask for help gracefully transforms your entire relationship with the world around you. When you lack these phrases, the world feels like a series of obstacles you have to overcome in complete isolation.
That's so true.
But once you realize that you possess the linguistic tools to respectfully ask for assistance, you unlock an entire global network of potential allies. It changes you from a passive observer into an active, confident participant in society.
You realize that no matter how steep the hill gets, you never actually have to pedal up it alone.
That is an incredibly empowering perspective. The language isn't just a set of rules, it is a key to human generosity.
Beautifully said.
And we want to see how you, our listeners, are using these keys in your own daily lives. So we are giving you a question of the day to practice your written English down in the comments.
We'd love to read your stories.
We want to know, when was the last time you asked for help in English, and what exactly did you say?
It's a fantastic exercise in self-reflection.
Try framing your response with something like, yesterday I asked, or last week I needed help with. We really want to read about the real-world situations where you are putting these gears into practice.
Can't wait to see the comments.
Thank you so much for spending time on Tim's English channel and for letting us explore the mechanics of language alongside you. Please give this deep dive a thumbs up, share it with a fellow learner, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Keep practicing, keep speaking, and never be afraid to ask for help.
See you next time.